In this video, you're going to learn all about sidechain compression, what it is, and how you can use it to clean up your very own mixes. So stick with me. So, assuming that you know what a compressor does already, we know it squashes audio and reduces dynamic range and basically just makes things more consistent at the same volume level, as you can see so elegantly presented by my hands. Well, sidechain compression does the exact same thing, but instead of consistently being applied to an audio signal, it uses an input called the sidechain input, which the compressor reacts to. That means every time your input hits, let's say it's a kick drum, the compressor squashes the audio, provided you've set a ratio and a threshold level. Okay, so first things first, we're in Ableton and I'm going to show you how to set up sidechain compression. So how do you do it? You open up a compressor. Once you've opened up the compressor, you click this little button down here, and now in Ableton, there's that button, but in other DAWs, it's usually up to the top left. You'll see a sidechain input, or it's to the top right. We want to turn that sidechain input on, then we want to select the kick, because that's what we want the compressor to duck out of the way of. Once we've got the kick coming through and we know it's all reacting, the compressor isn't going to do anything until we change the settings. So we've got a ratio control here and a threshold control here. Now, to put this very simply, the ratio is the amount by which your compressor is going to duck the audio out of the way. So the more you put it up, the more it's going to duck out of the way. The less it's going to duck out of the way. And then if we go 1 to 1, it's going to do nothing. So if you want a pumping sound, you want to go quite heavy on the ratio, and I'm going to start off with infinite to 1, and I'm going to make this compression very short, so very short attack and release. I'm not even going to change those times. And then I'm just going to bring the threshold down. Now we're going to have to listen to the audio while I'm doing this, because you need to listen to hear where it's reacting. So I'm just going to solo the kick and the bass, and then I'm going to pull the threshold down so the compressor will start reacting to the kick and start squashing the bass's audio. Now this is very short, so if you did want a longer sidechain, we would change the release times. So if we have a listen while I change the release times, you can hear how this really does start to affect and shape the sound. And as you can hear, it's really nicely ducking out of the way of that kick and providing space for the kick to pop through in the mix and sound full and bright and clean. Now, if you've got a good ear, you would have heard there's a clicking going on in the bass when the sidechain is acting. So I'm just going to solo the bass so you can hear what's happening and what the click sounds like. So as you can hear, we got a really nice pumping effect going on, but there's a slight click at the start and the end when the kick comes in and then goes out. And that is because we've got the attack here, it's too short. Now the shorter the attack, the harsher the click's gonna be, and the slower the attack, the less harsh the click's gonna be. So just to demonstrate to you what's happening, I'm gonna play the bass and move the attack round. And as you can hear, when we move the bass around, there's a massive difference between the amount of click that comes through when we have a slow attack and a fast attack. So if you're running into problems with clicking noises when you're sidechaining, this could be the issue, and that's what you need to do. You just need to play around with the attack settings until it becomes unaudible. It's not exactly always gonna become completely unaudible, but you can kind of tame it a bit by changing the attack around. So that's how you set sidechain compression up, and this is one of the really common uses, to create space in the mix for a kick drum or a snare drum or something like that. Now another very common use is to duck things out of the way to give that kind of breathing sound that you get in EDM. Now to do this, we pretty much set everything up in the exact same way, but there's going to be one key difference in the sidechain setting. We're going to change the attack. And we use a formula here which can be found on this website called sengpeelaudio.com. I'll leave the link in the description below. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to change this release time on the bass to 500 milliseconds to get it breathing with the quarter note pattern. Seeing as we're at 120 BPM up here, the quarter note, which is suggested by the formula, is 500 milliseconds. So for the quarter note, we're putting our release time down here to 500 milliseconds. Now we've also got a melody here, and I've scooped out the lows a bit because it was interfering with the bass quite a bit. But we're also going to put the compressor on here and do the exact same thing. So we're going to set up the sidechain from the kick, and then we're going to put the ratio up, and then we're going to put the release to 500 milliseconds. Then we're going to start pulling the threshold down, and we're just going to play it alongside the kick to hear how it sounds. And as you can hear, that is very, very, very harsh sidechain there. What I'm going to do for this technique is I'm going to bring it back quite a drastic amount. So I'm going to go to about maybe 8-1, and then on the bass I'm going to go about maybe 8-1 as well. Yeah, around about that figure. Just going to bring that threshold back. And because we're reducing the gain by a large amount, I'm also going to bring this output up. And as you can hear, it really nicely rolls with that doo, 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 and it just rolls with the rhythm of the kick. Now if we incorporate the bass in this as well, you'll hear a nice kind of synergy between everything as it's playing. Then another thing you can do with sidechain, especially in house music, is you can take your hats over here. So I've got a nice hats loop here. A really nice rhythmic pattern. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a very slight sidechain from the kick as well to get it kind of breathing in time with that 500 millisecond quarter note pattern. Now for the ratio, I'm going to go much lower. I'm going to go about 2-1, 3-1, and then I'm going to bring the threshold down to hear it start reacting with the kick. So if we listen to the whole thing together, as you can hear from that, everything is bouncing nicely with the kick. It's got a nice rhythm. It's given a kind of nice breathing effect to it. And that's one of the main uses that all the professionals use in EDM to basically give that breathing effect to their track and that pumping effect. Now there's a couple of other uses you could use sidechain compression on, and one of them is the snare, and I'm going to open up one of my own projects to just give you an example of how that works. Okay, so now we're in Ableton on this project that I made for a beat challenge, and I just want to play it first so you can hear what's going on. Now as you can hear from that, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of melodic elements that things can clash with. One of them is the snare, and this is what I wanted to go through here. There's also some sidechain reverb, which I'm going to go through in a minute after the snare, but let's go through the snare first. Now remember when I said there's a lot of melodic elements? The snare is going to take up a very similar frequency range to a lot of these higher range melodic elements and these kind of like mid-range melodic elements. So to get the snare to sing through the mix a little bit more, we want to duck these melodic elements out of the way of the snare very quickly. What this does is it uses the snare as the sidechain input and basically ducks all of the audio out of the way, creating a little pocket of space for the snare to just tap your ear a little bit more slightly and for it to pop through a mix a little more. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're basically going to set up a group of our instruments. Now in this track, I believe I called it glitch because I added a glitch effect to all of the melodic instruments here. Now I've also got a group for leads and bells, and I've also got some arps and some vox. Now I'm going to apply this same sidechain compression to all of them. So in this instance, we're just going to take a look at one of the channels. Now as you can see here, we've got two compressors. One is the kick and one is the snare. They both got the exact same settings, very fast attack time, very short release time. Now the reason for the short release time is because we literally just want the audio to kind of just out of the way straight away and then back up into the track. Using this very quick release time basically makes the volume change that is happening due to the compressor squishing the audio unaudible to the person listening, but allows a little bit of space for the snare to pop through and a little bit of the space for the kick to pop through. To set this up, all you're going to do is open up two compressors. You're going to do the same thing as we did at the start. You're going to click the sidechain on, you're going to choose your kick channel, then you're going to choose your snare channel, and then you're basically just going to set your ratios high. I've set mine really high because I wanted a really big pumping effect. You can dial this back if you want it to sound a little bit less. Then you're going to bring the thresholds down and you're just going to listen until you can hear it reacting. Then all you're going to do is you're going to grab these compressors, you're going to highlight them both by pressing shift and clicking both of them. Then you're going to Control C or Command C if you're on Mac, and you're just going to go across to all of the other channels that are melodic and you're going to add these on. So for instance, I've already added them on here, but if I delete those, I can go in and copy and paste again if my computer will let me. And then you're just going to do the same for all of the things that you want that sidechain compression to bounce with. So in this case, I've done it on the Vox, I've done it on the main lead melody, I've done it on the 808, and I've done it on the basically all the melodic elements. So the piano and all the stuff you can hear here, like the arps and the lead lines and all that stuff is basically getting sidechained massively out of the way. Now, one other interesting thing I want to go through here is sidechain reverb. I've used sidechain reverb in this particular sample here, which is a lead sample, to make it sound more interesting. So if I just turn off what I've done over here, we can hear the lead on its own. As you can hear, in context with the track, it's just too much. The reverb's too big. So we want to kind of duck that out of the way and create a rhythmic space and atmosphere. Now you can either do this with auto pan or you can do it with sidechain. You can do it with both. I'm going to show you how to set the auto pan up because it's a lot easier than doing the sidechain and essentially does the exact same thing. Essentially what you're doing here is you're adding an LFO to your reverb. So you put the reverb before, and I like to use Valhalla Supermassive because it's a supermassive reverb and it sounds awesome. I'm not sure what I used here. I used Hydra Harp. Yeah, Hydra Harp, because man, it just sounds great. And then after that, you're gonna put an auto pan on it. So in this case, this auto pan is acting as an LFO, like I said. And as you can see, we've got some automation going on above here. If I play the sound with the auto pan, you can hear it creates this nice rhythmic texturized reverb that kind of fills out the stereo space in the track. So as you can hear in context with the track, it just makes this really nice rhythmic element and fills out the space really nicely. If we just had the reverb on there, it would sound way too big and it just wouldn't sound good. But because we've got the auto panner on there, or acting as kind of like sidechain compression. It's just bringing the volume up and down to a fourth, and then I change it to a half. No, it starts on a half note and then it changes to a fourth note. And this is doing the exact same as sidechain compression would. Okay, so this is future Harry cutting in here and saying that it's not doing the exact same as sidechain compression would, but it's producing a very similar effect. So instead of it squashing the audio together, the auto pan isn't doing this, but having it on a 0 degree phase is creating that sidechain like effect. Anyway, that is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please go ahead and click the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell, all that kind of good stuff. If you do want more of whipped cream, go and check out the website. I'll leave all the links below to the website. There's loads and loads and loads of written tutorials with graphics that are really easy to sort of digest and go through at your own pace. So I really would suggest going and checking out the website. I know I am biased, but it's good, I promise you. Other than that, you can join us over on our Facebook community where I host the beat competitions and I upload exclusive tips and tricks there as well and host sort of music based discussions. So if you want to join in on a awesome music community, go down in the description box below and grab your link, join up, and then you'll be part of the family. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Again, I will see you soon. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.